Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you are new. So today's video is going to be about my surgery. If you follow me on Instagram, which I will leave down below, I did already share a little bit about my surgery, but I did get asked quite a bit of questions about the surgery and like the pain and everything like that, so I thought I'd just cover it all in one video. So I do just want to say a disclaimer that obviously this is my body, this is how I felt, and this is my personal experience. Everybody is different. You're going to feel differently than I do, and you're going to have probably a different experience than I do, but I thought I would just share my experience since I did get asked. So it all started, it was the 4th of October. I was at work, I just work in retail. I was just standing up because I stand up at work, and I got this extremely sharp pain in my very lower abdomen. I can never say that word. Abdomen. I was at work and I'm like, oh shit, this really fucking hurt. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, that was weird. Standing still, like, you know, trying to kind of be like, what is that? You know, kind of covering it up, because it's like, I'm kind of the type of person, like, I don't really like to like shout out for pain, or like, you know, I'm not like attention seeking, if that makes sense. So I'm not like the type of person to be like, oh, I'm in pain, everyone help me kind of thing. Anyway, I'm at work, I'm standing, get the sharp pain, I try to leave it, then I get this like sensation that I need to vomit. I run to the back, throw up, I throw up a little bit of blood, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of concerning. All of a sudden, it just hit me, like I just wanted to faint. I started getting like hot and sweaty, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I went and sat down at the back. My managers were like, obviously go home. So I managed to drive myself home because I'm like, I'm determined. I'm a determined kind of person. I go home, I call my fiance, and I'm like, look, I think you need to take me to the doctors. So he comes home straight away, and then we're basically like deciding whether we're going to the doctor. At this time, the pain is getting worse and worse. Like my whole abdomen is hurting at this point in time. I want to throw up. I just want like the strongest painkillers I could ever imagine. So my fiance and my mom are like talking, and then they decide they want to take me to the hospital because my pain was getting really bad. I get taken to the hospital. I get there. They take me straight into the back. They put a drip into my hand. Like not a drip, a catheter, sorry. Take some, I don't know if they took some bloods at this moment. To be honest, like I was in so much pain that I was basically like half blacked out. Like I don't really remember a lot of that part until I actually got put into a bed. So I remember them like, you know, kind of trying to ask me a lot of questions and things like that, but I was so out of it that I think like pretty much my fiance probably answered most of them. I don't really remember. That whole part was like kind of a bit of a blur. Anyway, they take me in. I did stay in that hospital for 2 nights. So basically the first night, they thought it was my appendix, and they're like, okay, we got to do a CT scan. They do a CT scan, and they've taken like heaps of blood at this point of time. The CT scan, they couldn't find my appendix. So they're like, oh, we don't know what else it is. At this point of time, this is too much information for you, then I'm sorry, please click out of the video because it's probably going to start to get a bit grotty. At this point of time, I was also having diarrhea and vomiting at the same time. So they started to conclude that it could be gastro. So they started treating me for gastro, and they ended up taking a stool sample from me and they sent it off. They did only call me like a few days after I got admitted out of hospital, and they're like, yep, we found gastro in your stool. Anyway, so basically when I was in that hospital, they were obviously giving me a lot of drugs because I was in a lot of pain. The Sunday, I think that I got released from there, they asked me if I felt any more pain, and I was like, no, like I don't feel anything at the moment. Whether I was because I was a lot of drugs or not, I don't know, like it wasn't out of my system. But basically like that Monday, Tuesday, I started getting the same pains. It wasn't obviously as bad as that night I had to go straight to the hospital, but it was that same pain, but just not as acute. So basically what it feels like, it's basically like a stitch constantly down there, but then also you'd get like this random stabbing pain that you like kind of like half like need to fall over for or something like that, because it's like all of a sudden and it's just really sharp and painful. Anyway, I go back to my doctor and I'm like, look, I'm still having these pains, like they're getting really bad. Like you know, it's constantly there. And sometimes I get these really bad stabbing pains. I can't stand for a long period of time. Like I started noticing that I would like try to stand to go to work or cook or anything like that. And after like half an hour, I'd get the stabbing pains, but very frequent. Yeah, so a week after the first hospital visit, I go to see my doctor. He's like, oh, this sounds like it still could be your appendix, so I'm a bit concerned. So he wanted me to go to another hospital and see what they would say. I go to that hospital. They basically didn't even take me, and I stayed 1 night there. But they basically were like, oh, we took some bloods. It doesn't seem like you have an infection. You know, just these probably the after effects of gastro, because obviously like they have my medical records for the previous hospital. they're like, this is like normal for gastro, you can get these pains for like, you know, a week or two. So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. You know, another week goes by, I go back to my doctor. My actual doctor at this point of time is on holiday, so this is really annoying because I had to see other doctors at my clinic. But basically this other doctor was like, well, okay, let's do some ultrasounds. Okay, so we do an ultrasound, still couldn't find my appendix. Come back to the doctor, they're like, oh, well, we should do another CT scan. So I went back and did a CT scan. So yeah, then go back to the doctors to get the results for that CT scan. Still couldn't find my appendix. My doctor comes back, thank God, and I was like going crazy. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I still, at this point in time, I couldn't go back to work because I felt physically okay laying down. Standing would be horrible. Like, I always had this stitch down there, but when I would stand, it hurt. Like, I couldn't do it. I felt like throwing up. The pain was getting worse and worse. Like, every minute I would stand longer than like say an hour. So my doctor comes back and I'm like, I'm still having this pain. It's driving me crazy, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, okay, let's do a colonoscopy and a gastroscopy. So she refers me to a specialist, see the specialist. Specialist does the gastroscopy and colonoscopy. So that was like a day surgery, which is pretty much the same thing. Like, they put you under, you wake up and you felt fine. Like, I didn't have any issues with that procedure at all. It is always a little bit scary going under, but that procedure was pretty straightforward and simple. So my partner just came with me. He just stayed with me, waited for me while I was out. It only takes about, I think, like half an hour or so, that procedure. And then you get to go home that same day. So it's not like a overnight procedure kind of thing. So after I get that done, I go back to him, obviously, for the results. And he's like, you know what? This is ridiculous. You've had 2 CT scans. You've had 2 pelvic ultrasounds. You've had an ultrasound to try to find your appendix. Like, we've done pretty much everything we can do for you. We've done the gastroscopy and colonoscopy. Couldn't find anything in there. So he's like, hold on 1 minute. Let me call my doctor friend. Or like, not my doctor friend. You know, I don't know, some associate. So he calls a doctor. Basically, he's I'm in the room with him in the consultation. He's like, oh, to this guy, he's like, look, I have a young girl. She's been in pain. Like, she hasn't been able to go to work. This. Tells him the whole story. Like, all my tests I've done, we still can't find anything wrong. So he gets off the phone to his doctor and he's like, the doctor can see you hopefully in a few days to do a laparoscopy. Laparoscopy, I can never say that word. So I'm like, okay, what the fuck is that? Because I'm not really good with these kind of things. Like, I've honestly built up a tolerance because of, like, you know, having migraines and then now going through all of this. I've kind of built up a bit of a tolerance, but I'm really squeamish. So it's kind of like, ooh. So he tells me they basically have to like cut a hole through my belly button. They put a camera in and then possibly 2 other incisions to cut anything out and to look through properly. 2 weeks ago from today, I actually had that procedure done. So I had a consultation with that surgeon. And he says that he wants to see me. He wants to, you know, do the laparoscopy. And basically what they'll do is they cut open, they look through the camera and they kind of see for a lot of things like endometriosis and things like that, which is another reason why I'm doing this video, because a lot of people who have endometriosis, they do a laparoscopy to kind of remove the endo. So that's another reason why I got asked a lot of questions, because a lot of people with endo are actually going to have this surgery, but I didn't have it for endo. They wanted to check if I did have endometriosis and if there was anything else, you know, like, you know, cyst, cancer, anything bad down there at all, because basically what they do is they pump gas into your stomach and it inflates your stomach. So then basically all your organs are really like easily visible. That makes sense? Anyway, he tells me that regardless of this procedure, he's going to take out my appendix, because if it is that exact pain in that exact feeling, like in that exact area, that he'd rather just take it out than to have these pains again a few months later down and be like, well, we'd have to do the procedure again. So the procedure itself, I'll talk about that. It's a night surgery kind of one, so you have to stay 1 night. Well, I did anyway. I think it depends probably when you have it done. I'm guessing if you have it done first thing in the morning, they might let you go at night. I'm not too sure, but they did say that I have to stay overnight. As much as for the procedure, obviously I'm asleep, so I can't really speak for that, but they basically put you under and then you just wake up and then that's it. So before that, they just put the catheter in you and then they just inject you with the thing to make you fall asleep. And then I just woke up and, you know, the doctor told me that they didn't find anything else that was concerning. They took out the appendix, so they're going to send it off to a lab and see what the results said, because he said that basically sometimes the appendix might not be inflamed at the time, but it might have been inflamed. So what he basically explained to me, and this was actually before I had the procedure, while I had the consultation with him, a lot of people have acute appendicitis. I think this is all medical terms that I remember. I'm not too sure if this is completely accurate, but for the most part, most people, they have their appendix pain, and within like, you know, a day or two or something like that is when it's going to rupture. So you have to kind of like go to the doctor or the hospital, not doctor, go to the hospital straight away. For some people, they have like subacute appendicitis, so it can kind of be going on for weeks or months. I don't know if it goes on for years or not, but he said it can go even to up to like a year, where basically the appendix will inflame, it will be infected, and then it'll kind of go back to itself, and then it'll come back and become inflamed again. It just goes up and down. And that's what I had. When I woke up, I was obviously not in any pain because they had given me painkillers. I was taking, they gave me more painkillers, sorry. So I was taking Endone and I think Tarjan. I don't actually know what they were giving me at the hospital because I cannot remember. And Panadol, I think. So I was basically taking that as often as I could, just to numb the pain. Pain-wise, for the first like few days, like for the first night and the next day in hospital, I wasn't having much pain, but it was extremely hard for me to get up and down. So like when I try to get up from the bed, hospital bed, I'd have to, like obviously my fiance was there and he'd help me get up and stuff. That was kind of the most difficult part. Recovery, I for two or 3 days had this absolute crazy ache in my right shoulder, which apparently is really normal because of the gas that they pump into you. To me, that hurt so fucking much. Like, it was incredibly painful that even like my painkillers wouldn't do anything for that sort of pain. I basically only was able to sleep on my side maybe 2 or 3 nights ago. You have to lay flat on your like back, which is kind of really hard for me because I'm a side sleeper. So it started getting really frustrating. Like a week after I got home, it was getting really, really hard for me to continuously stay flat in bed because it's just, you get really like stiff and like, you know, you just want to move and you can't, and it just gets really frustrating, to be honest. Like the painkillers help with the pain, but then you're just stuck and stiff. The first like week, my fiance and my mum had to help me with like everything because I could barely like get up and go to the toilet. But after that, I could basically start doing my own things. So about a week after, I would say, is when I started to feel a little bit better. So once I was able to kind of do my own things, like I went to go visit my doctor and she was like, you know, you can start walking, gave me another week off work. Kind of just depends on everyone with kind of recovery time. It can be 3 to 4 weeks. It can be 1 to 2 weeks. It just depends on your body and how much pain you're still in. I'm personally still off work. I do go back in another few more days. It's difficult for me to kind of stand up still at the time for a long period of time. I can stand up and do things. I even went to a concert a few nights ago. Well, not really a concert. Kevin Hart came to Melbourne. So I went to go see him, which was kind of a little bit difficult standing. But we did catch like an Uber. So basically they would just drop us off in front of the venue. So that way we would just have to like just walk in and I could sit down because it was a seated event. I would never go if it was a standing event. I knew I could never handle that, but that's why we caught an Uber there, so they could basically like drop us off in front. I could just walk in, go sit down, and that was it. But regardless, like still sitting up for that long in that position was kind of painful. I would be basically laying down at home all day. So it is kind of hard to sit up or stand up for a long period of time. But sitting's obviously a lot better than standing. And my doctor did say I could start to sit up, but just not stand for a long period of time. It wasn't fantastic. I was a little bit uncomfortable, but I took painkillers before I went and I was fine. So yeah, I don't know why I keep calling it a concert, an event, Kevin Hart event. I don't know, but yeah, you know what I mean. But basically, besides going to that event, I've been laying down in bed. I've been bedridden, basically doing nothing. Only the last few days, I started like being able to kind of like clean my room up and things like that again and cook my own food. So I've been like standing. I mean, I don't stand the entire time I'm cooking. I'll like sit down and prepare everything and then just stand to cook. Scar wise, I will insert a photo of my stomach that I did take with my 3 incisions. They were just covered up at the time, and I will insert a video now of my stomach. I just want to say that with this procedure you do get very bloated as well. I am still a little bloated, so that's my inside of my belly. As you can tell, I'm still a little bloated, but it has gone down a lot. This is my other incision down here and down here, which has pretty much healed completely. So I basically only took the bandage off a couple of days ago for my stomach, and that's what the inside looks like. I'm really squeamish, so it was really hard for me to even be able to look at that. But yeah, I would say, obviously, because this is not like a really major surgery, I mean, they are taking, is appendix technically an organ? I think it is. So technically they're taking something from your body out. And obviously if you were to have this procedure done for endo, it would probably hurt, you know, probably a little bit more, I'm guessing. I'm not too sure. But I just wanted to speak to you about the actual procedure itself. So I wouldn't say it's too scary, because I'm honestly really scared of like going under and things like that. You know, obviously if you have someone with you when you're about to go under and things like that, it helps, but they don't actually let you have someone with you when they inject, which is kind of my hardest part, because you're in the theater room with just the doctors and you're like, who are all these people? And now I'm gonna go to sleep. That, to me, that's the scariest part. But I would say it's a pretty simple procedure. Everyone is completely different. You may need longer than I needed to. There are probably people out there who healed quicker than I did. But yeah, I'm just, to be honest, I'm really glad that I found out what the pain was. So when the doctor called me back and was like, yep, cool, you did have appendicitis. It was just a subacute appendicitis, so we could tell that the appendix was inflamed. I don't know how scientific shit, but you know, whatever. They could tell that appendix was previously inflamed. So I'm just personally happy, because that, for me, that was 2 months of pain that I could not explain. I was calling in sick at work being like, well, I don't know why I'm in pain, but I'm in pain, so I can't come. And it was just really frustrating not knowing what it was, having this constant pain always, not being able to explain it to anybody or anything like that. It was just getting really frustrating. So I'm just really glad that I found out what it was, because that's all I wanted. I just wanted to know what the pain was. I didn't even care at the time, because when I first started getting the pains, all these doctors and then people were messaging me being like, it could be this, it could be that. I've heard, like, you know, you sound similar to my friend that had this, and you know, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, I got everything, like even to hearing that it could be ovarian cancer, which freaked me the fuck out. So I was like, shit, you know, like I was creeping out, and I was just thinking all these things, and I'm like, I don't even care what it is anymore. I just wanted to know what it was, so I could actually start looking forward to, you know, kind of fixing it. But yeah, I really wanted to make this video to hopefully help someone and comfort someone. Like, if you're ready to go through this procedure, or if you know someone that is going through or about to have this procedure, you know, just to kind of like ease your mind, you know, to kind of know what it is about and things like that, and recovery and all that. I would say it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. I would say you obviously just need to make sure you have someone who would probably be around, especially maybe like 2 or 3 days after the procedure, because getting up out of bed even was really difficult for me. I basically had my fiance help me all the time, even in the middle of the night if I needed to go to the toilet. He was such a fucking gem, coming with me to the toilet at this bad coming with me to the toilet at like 3 a.m. and helping me. So as long as you've got someone who can hopefully kind of take a couple of days off with you and just at least help the first few days with the main things, you know, hopefully cook you like some sort of meal that after you can kind of just warm up, because to me, getting in and out of bed was really difficult, and standing for longer than like 5 minutes was horrible pains. I would also make sure, and this is probably with like anything, a lot of painkillers make you constipated, and it was so hard because I was the first, after I didn't poop I didn't poop since before my surgery, and then I came home, like obviously stayed there that night, and then the next day I came home and I didn't poop till the day after that. So I was like, I was blocked, and it was like that sounds so gross, but it was basically just don't let yourself get to be constipated because of all the drugs. Make sure you're still taking something or drinking something that will help you go, because obviously like it's really sensitive down there, and you can't push, if that sounds too much grossness, but you can't push. So being constipated will hurt so much. So just make sure that you're taking something that will help you go. You know, drinking like juice or something like that, like apple juice really helped me. Just something with a lot of fiber that will just really help you go, because that's like one of your last concerns that you need. But yeah, I just really hope that this would help. Even if it helps one person, I'll be happy, because I know when I was about to have the procedure, I was trying to find anything and everything about it, because I'm just that type of person, and I was kind of getting a little bit freaked out about it, because getting cut through the belly button does not sound fun. But yeah, I hope this helps someone. If not, then I'm glad you just listened into my story time for no reason, and I will see you in my next video. Take care and blessings.